It has been said that Alzheimer's is becoming something of an epidemic, with the number of those with the condition expected to double by the year 2050. We're going to be talking about that and other things with Elizabeth Cockey, who is the author of the book Gertrude's Cupboard, and we'll be talking about the nature of the book, too, with Elizabeth. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're in Baltimore this morning.
I'm in Baltimore this morning, and it is a glorious day here.
Wonderful. So how long have you been in this field?
I have actually been in the field working with artist therapy for the last 12 years. 10 of those have been specifically with geriatrics.
And you left a corporate life to follow this path? What prompted you?
I did indeed. Well, I was in publishing, actually, and after a while I got tired of making corrections, writing copy, making other people sound good. So I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to do something that would make a difference.
You're seeing results.
Yes, I am. When I first started, it was largely experimental. I talked someone into letting me try art with some very severely depressed dementia patients, and they let me try it as an experiment, and it went on from there. What happened was they started to recognize me, they started to recognize each other, and then great things happened after that.
Maybe I could back up a couple of steps here, too, and talk about the premise of the book and our conversation here, of course. You, as an art therapist, empowering the elderly. So maybe you could just discuss briefly in broader terms what it is you do.
Okay, what it is I do is I work with individuals who range anywhere from 70 to 110 years old. That's quite a range. Most all of them are either in long-term care facilities, retirement communities, or in Good Samaritan Hospital here in Baltimore. And I provide art programs as an activity for therapeutic stimulation, for recovery in some cases, for recovery of cognitive impairment disorders, people who have Parkinson's or have had strokes, people who are depressed, or generally have some kind of dementia associated with a disease like Alzheimer's.
Okay. And what kind of results have you seen?
The results that I've seen are really pretty phenomenal. One thing that I've seen is that the depression definitely lifts. This isn't about 90% of the cases, maybe more. I mean, I don't want to be blasphemous and say, 100%. But I would say about 90% of the time the depression will lift, and that means that they can start taking less medication. The other things that happen is they begin to get back some short-term memory loss, their coordination. They start to recover somewhat from delusional thinking, sundowning. That's when they might think it's time to go home and make dinner for Dad or, change the baby's diapers. And some of their behavioral disturbances, in other words, combated, they become combative and they become agitated and unruly. All of that changes within the course of about a year. We've actually done studies at one institution where I work and found that in every category, all the patients showed significant improvement. In fact, the psychotherapist that works with me feels that combining art therapy with medication and psychotherapy really makes a huge difference, especially with respect to self-esteem.
So what is it, when you sit down with someone for this art therapy, what is it you get them to do?
Basically, I start out having them paint. Most people who are, in their 70s, 80s, and 90s don't find it too childish to sit down and want to paint a picture. Most of them have never painted before. Some have, most haven't. They don't want to have someone, give them a coloring book with crayons, or they don't want to, glue macaroni to a pie plate or something. They're interested in a more sophisticated product, and that's what I provide. So we start painting. In some cases, we sculpt with paper mache. In other cases, we make things like soap. We make Christmas presents. We make candles, all kinds of things that they can give as presents as well.
Is there anything else involved in the therapy, or is it merely the act of creating that is the therapy in itself?
I believe it's the act of creating, but in addition to that, it's also the social stimulation. Many of these folks have become isolated in their older age. Let's say they've moved into the retirement community. They don't know anyone. They don't want to start making friends at this point. They've lost a lot of people in their lives, so they don't tend to socialize. So this is very social activity. They get to know one another. They form friendships that they might not have formed. That's just as important as doing the art.
You say that you work with 3 groups within the elderly population. Which are they?
Okay. The first group is independent. Those folks there's nothing really wrong with them. Most of them have arthritis and incidental things like that, but they get around just fine. My oldest independent patient is 96 years old, so it's not really age-related. Second group is assisted living. Those folks are getting around okay. They might have some physical disabilities. They might have a little short-term memory loss. They might be a little confused from time to time. Mild cognitive disorder. They need assistance. They need to go to the dining room to eat. They might need help with getting dressed, etc. But they're walking around. Some are in wheelchairs, however. But many of them are okay in terms of they can remember pretty much most of the time. Third group would be severe cognitive impairment. Those folks generally, we'd say, have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, late-stage MS, they've had stroke, and they aren't able to take care of themselves without complete assistance all the time. And they're usually in your health care facility. Most of them are wheelchair-bound.
And when you began as an art therapist, was there any art therapy out there?
You know what? There wasn't any art therapy in the geriatric population at that time in Baltimore. At that point, this was like 12 years ago or so, it was thought that you really couldn't do too much with them, that they weren't going to be responsive. And so it was thought that, well, they don't know what's going on anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then we found out a lot between then and now that, yeah, they do know what's going on, and they are alive and well inside. They just can't output, shall we say. So we found that by creating an enriched environment, using art as a therapy, music therapy works too, also entertainers coming in and providing them with stimulus works. Anything that's stimulating to them really makes a huge difference. I mean, if I put you in a hallway for a year in a wheelchair, you'd probably become less functional than you are now.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, anyone would.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we're living longer. We have better medical, facilities that can take care of people in worse conditions, but we're still human. There's still that human spirit, that we need to address.
Is there some form of licensing or training involved? I mean, how can we here on the east coast of Vancouver Island
find somebody like that or train somebody like that, or what do you need to do?
Yeah.
You mean, actually, I'll tell you, it's all over the place these days because there's not as many regulations and rules in that area, okay, in retirement communities, let's say, or in long-term care facilities. It hasn't really been regulated, at least not in the United States, as much as other things, like if you were going to be a doctor or a psychotherapist. Many times people can just become certified as recreational therapists in the activity world, and that takes, a matter of a few months, and taking a couple of courses, you can do that. You can go all the way. I mean, I have degrees in psychology, 2 degrees in art, and I've worked in clinical settings for quite a long time. So I had all of that going for me. Actually, anyone can really go into a facility in most cases and start working with individuals. You don't have to have a license to, say, paint a picture with your mom or with your friend's mom. I think actually more and more I'm seeing family members come in and get involved. I'm seeing people from outreach programs in the community come in and get involved. It's so much fun that most people like to come back and stay. So you really don't have to have a major degree to go in and provide an activity for a group of individuals.
So your book, Gertrude's Cupboard, is dealing with your experiences and the results that you've seen?
Yes, absolutely it is. It was written about many of my patients over the years, but it was about one particular lady who really had a gift of prayer. That's what she said. I wasn't sure because she herself was suffering from dementia, but she showed me what was within her. And you know what? Her talent really touched and changed me. And in changing me, I helped change her too. And I think that the book brings to light that the true struggle of so many people who are suffering. And it's really encouraging because you find out in the book, in the story, that, wow, we all make a difference to each other. And even though, we all don't have the answers to everything, I think that what I learned from her is that what's important is that we all do play a part in each other's lives, and that was the magic.
And you felt strongly enough about the message in the book to publish it yourself.
I did. I did. It's a very emotional book, and I think what most people have written to me or told me is that they find out that it's kind of an awakening for them, because I talk about things that affect people: not having enough money, struggling from months, paying the bills month to month. When a crisis comes up, what do you do? There isn't long, there's Medicare in this country won't pay for long-term care. You have to become destitute. A lot of times what happens when a person ages is it just becomes a travesty of lots of things can go wrong, and you're not always supported. Even events in your life before you become disabled, let's say, can really set you back. And I think people react to that part of the story, that, wow, here's a real person who had a real struggle, who overcame it one day at a time.
You also mentioned that there are a number of important things to know about caring for an Alzheimer's patient. What would they be?
First of all, I tell family members that they need to come on a regular basis. That might be once a week. All right, it doesn't have to be every day when you get out of work and you're exhausted. Come at a regular time so they have something to look forward to. Bring something with you to do that's active with them. For instance, you might want to bring the photograph album to go through and say, remember when we did this? Kind of helps stimulate their memory. Find out about what kind of activities are going on in that community, and can you get your parent or your spouse involved in that? Can you become a volunteer? A lot of times, if you come in during a class time, and let's say they're having art therapy, you can sit down. Most activity people will welcome an extra person who's ambulatory to come in and help, and it's great fun to sit there with your relative. It gives you something to do together.
Mm-hmm.
Don't treat them like they're not home. They are. Act as if they're just as conscious as you and I are. Find out if they need any other kind of special care. Sometimes they may be, many are, depressed. So you need to put them in touch with get in touch with a social worker or a psychotherapist who might be able to talk with them, work with them a little bit extra to help them work through some of their transitional difficulties. A lot of times people come straight from their home into the healthcare facility, and they haven't had much chance to really acclimate. They love to sing.
Oh, yes.
One of the favorite songs here in the United States is "You Are My Sunshine."
Uh-huh.
They love to sing patriotic songs. They love to sing songs, anything from the 30s or 40s, they love to sing. Sometimes, especially if your parents or your spouse are in their 80s or 90s, they really, their long-term memory is in better shape than the short-term. So you might want to do some nostalgic kinds of things.
So it sounds like Gertrude's Cupboard is sort of a handbook for anyone who has an elderly family member.
It is. It's a handbook experience of what happened in my life, because it goes into not just my son or my patients, but my mom, who is in a long-term care facility. And it really discusses what that's like, the experience. And it gives you some hints into what's it like to be in an Alzheimer's unit.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like for these individuals as well as the family members. So it gives you a good life experience. You don't feel so alone after you've read the book. You go, oh, wow, she had that happen too.
Yeah. I don't suppose the book is available locally. Do you have a website address?
I have a website, and I can tell you how to get the book. The book is available on Amazon.com, atlasbooks.com, and my website is www.elizabethcockey.com. And my website will refer you right back to Amazon.com.
Oh, okay. And Elizabeth is, well, that's easy to spell. Your last name is Cockey?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, the book is Gertrude's Cupboard. Now everyone knows how to get a copy of it. And continued success, Elizabeth. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to meet with you also, and you have a great day.
Thank you.